In 2025, political conversations turned aggressive and ugly. Yet on CNN of all places, one voice stayed calm, quietly and respectfully dismantling the left one panel at a time. That voice is Scott Jennings.
If I can't trust you not to put a boy in a teenage girl's locker room, how will I ever listen to your plan for taxes and the economy?
Right.
I will not, because I've already concluded you're a lunatic.
Scott Jennings is a Kentucky-born political strategist and has been working at CNN since 2017. Scott brings decades of political experience and level-headedness to the messy table that is CNN. He's worked for the likes of George W. Bush and Mitch McConnell and is a fervent but measured supporter of Donald Trump. So how exactly did Scott Jennings own the left respectfully? Let's start in March of 2025. In early 2025, a group of House Democrats did a cringy TikTok trend, mimicking video game fighters as an attempt to engage voters.
Choose your character.
On a CNN panel, even the host, liberal lunatic Abby Phillip, reacted to it with cringe and confusion.
Congresswoman, that TikTok trend, I don't even know where to begin. I'm not sure why this is necessary. I mean, there is like serious stuff happening in this country, but that seems to be just inviting ridicule.
Democratic Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland, who was on the panel, defended the video as a way to reach new voters.
So when you think about TikTok as a trend, we are trying to reach out to different people and different voters. And the woman who produced this is an influencer with 7 million followers. So this is lighthearted, it's fun. And every time you do something creative, you're gonna get criticism, right? But I actually applaud them for trying to do something different. And here's the reality. 7 million followers, whether you think it's cringe or you like it, we're on CNN on a Thursday night, and we're talking about it on national TV.
Scott Jennings, the lone conservative voice, told it like it was. He calmly called the TikTok skit
The dumbest thing I've ever seen. And if you read the comments today, Lord have mercy.
The Democratic guest visibly bristled and immediately pivoted to attacking Trump's record instead of defending the video. She accused Trump of doing nothing for the American people, trying to steer the conversation away from Jennings' critique. At that point, the conversation wasn't about the video anymore. The panel began changing subjects and Jennings' original critique went unanswered. This would become a familiar pattern. Later that March, Jennings found himself respectfully getting the better of two known yappers, Anna Navarro and Carrie Champion. On Newsnight with Abby Phillip, the panel was having a discussion about Chuck Schumer canceling his book tour because of the backlash from his own party over voting with Republicans on a funding bill. That's when Scott Jennings gave the panel a dose of reality they so desperately needed.
You voted to shut down the government. You voted to lay off every veteran in the federal government. You're making a passionate plea for why Democrats didn't shut down the government. And now Chuck Schumer can't even have a book tour because Democrats are so enraged that the government was. And I'm just confused because last week I was told that people going and expressing their First Amendment rights was part of their democratic and civic duty. And now Chuck Schumer can't even have a book party with Democrats.
He should show up and take the L is what I'm saying. No one's saying he can't have it, Scott. He can do whatever he chose to, but once again, another example of him deciding to hide. I would love for him to go on the book tour so that he can answer the questions of the American people. Security risk perhaps may be true, according to what Abby has said and what his office is saying.
Who would be the security risk, though?
I don't know.
Who would be the security risk?
Wait a minute, the book is about
Who is the risk?
Scott,
Can we just admit who the risk is?
The book is about anti-Semitism, right? So I guess somebody that might be anti-Semitic might target
the left.
Chuck Schumer tomorrow.
By August, Jennings' measured style was truly testing the patience of some CNN panelists. In a mid-August Newsnight discussion, the topic was President Trump's success in brokering international peace deals. Political commentator Tara Sedmeier, an anti-Trump Republican, attempted to dismiss Trump's string of peace agreements, suggesting they weren't real or meaningful.
He actually hasn't solved 7 conflicts. There's been a lot of talk about that.
Jennings could not let that stand, and he didn't need to shout to make his point. He looked at Sedmeier and asked evenly,
What reality do you live in? He's literally got these guys in the White House where they're signing documents and shaking hands. Acknowledge the man is solving peace.
India questioned about whether that was an actual
it happens on almost a weekly basis. Just acknowledge it.
These were cold, hard, beautiful facts, aired on CNN's own network, and he pressed Sedmeier to acknowledge them. As she tried to pivot to a new critique, insinuating Trump had an affinity for Vladimir Putin, Jennings interjected a lie.
Seems to have an affinity for Vladimir Putin in a way.
When Sedmeier protested,
No, you're not going to get away with calling me a liar.
Jennings didn't flinch. You're lying, he repeated repeated bluntly, yet still in a matter-of-fact tone. This straight accusation caused the segment to erupt. Sedmire's composure cracked. She raised her voice, insisting she wouldn't be labeled a liar on air. Other panelists jumped in, and soon Sedmire was ranting about January 6th and unrelated grievances in a raised voice. Jennings, however, had already made his factual point and largely went quiet as the crosstalk swirled. The segment ended with the conservative commentator looking like the only adult in the room, having politely destroyed a shaky argument using nothing more than facts and a firm word: lying. September brought a far more somber debate. After Charlie Kirk was assassinated, may he rest in peace, CNN convened a panel to discuss the killer's motives. Talk show host Montel Williams stunned Scott Jennings by downplaying the political element. Montel argued that the murderer was just a love-torn young man who had acted out of personal emotion, not ideology.
There are people who are trying to pigeonhole this as a leftist thing and a right thing, and what we're really talking about, hear me because I'm going to throw you when I say this, we're talking about a love-torn child, a kid. This is probably his first real relationship, and somebody was disparaging the person that he loved.
As Montel and other members of the panel spoke, Jennings' disbelief was written on his face. When it was his turn to speak, he did not hide his disgust at that explanation. Jennings methodically recounted the evidence that was known at the time.
Guys, the evidence here is overwhelming. He said, Charlie Kirk, I can't stand this hate anymore. I'm going to take him out. The testimony from him and the statements of his family, he had become more left-wing. He etched the statements that are made by the left about Republicans and conservatives and Charlie Kirk fascist on the bullet casing.
Montel interjected that the killer's final text about the killing was meant as a joke.
He made a joke about it in his last text.
Well, it doesn't sound like a joke to me because someone's dead and about to be buried. So it doesn't sound like a joke to me.
This was a defining moment. Jennings, a friend of Charlie's, refused to let the truth be whitewashed in the name of politeness.
We are looking around the edges of this for something other than what's staring us in the face. Left-wing radicalism got this kid, he went up to a roof, and he murdered our friend, and that's what happened.
The rest of the panel fell quiet as his words hung in the air. But this episode didn't end on the CNN set. In the days that followed, Jennings continued speaking out about the politicalization about Charlie's death, including mocking Jimmy Kimmel's reinstatement after ABC suspended him for insensitive comments about Charlie. This pushed crazed lunatic and former MSDNC host Keith Olbermann over the edge. Olbermann lashed out on X with a series of alarming posts. He told Jennings, "You're next, motherfucker," and ranted, "Now we get the fascists off real TV. That'd mean your career is next, Jennings. Keep mugging to the camera, amateur." Rather than trade insults online, Jennings again chose the sober path. He reported Olbermann's threatening messages to the FBI. This incident showed how far his calm, factual approach had gotten under the left's skin. As Jennings' profile grew, he became a target for some rival media personalities. In late October, MSDNC host Lawrence O'Donnell devoted a segment of his show to tearing into Scott Jennings. O'Donnell was incensed that CNN gave a prominent platform to a pro-Trump commentator. He unloaded a barrage of insults.
CNN eagerly pays a Trump supporter to lie on CNN every day and night for Donald Trump. Scott Jennings, who used to be an aide to Senator Mitch McConnell, was not always a rabid, lying Trump supporter. When he first started appearing on television, he was capable of criticizing some of the more extreme Trump positions, but Scott Jennings figured out where the money is and how he could get his own podcast and decided to become the J.D. Vance of CNN. The show that Scott Jennings frequents the most is on opposite this program. And that show, on a good night, gets half of the audience of this show. This program usually has an audience triple the size of the terrible television that Scott Jennings is delivering on the absurdly degraded version of CNN.
It was a scathing personal attack delivered to a camera, not face-to-face. Jennings' response? He didn't storm onto MSDNC or fire back with name-calling. Instead, he took a decidedly cheeky approach on his own social media. Quoting a clip of O'Donnell's rant, Jennings wrote, "No, Lawrence, I do not have the time to save your show." And after that, Scott Jennings took to his podcast to issue a longer response to Lawrence O'Donnell.
And now CNN eagerly pays a Trump supporter to lie on CNN every day and night for Donald Trump.
Lie? Someone at MSNBC is accusing someone else of lying? From that propaganda outfit over there, they're accusing me or anyone else of lying? Here is Lawrence O'Donnell's real problem. He's irrelevant. Nobody likes his show. I was looking at some information. You know, he's on at 10 o'clock Eastern at night. He's up against Abby Phillip, Newsnight with Abby Phillip, where I appear on a regular basis. I was looking at the last month, the month of October. They have this thing in television called the demo. In the month of October, I'm sorry to report to Mr. O'Donnell, Abby Phillip was kicking his rear end by 30% on a nightly basis. 30% more people watching in the advertising demo than Lawrence O'Donnell. Can you imagine having a television show on a network and you spend your precious time on that network complaining about what someone else is doing on another network?
And just days after this, media reports revealed that Jennings' influence was rising so much that CBS News was considering recruiting him. If anything, O'Donnell's segment may have inadvertently boosted Jennings' stature. One of Jennings' tensest on-air moments came in November when an exchange on Newsnight veered into personal territory. The panel that evening was debating newly released Jeffrey Epstein files and whether any evidence in them could implicate Donald Trump. Liberal commentator Franklin Leonard voiced skepticism, suggesting maybe evidence of Trump's wrongdoing was still lurking unseen. Jennings, however, poised a simpler explanation.
Scott, you keep saying, well, he didn't do anything, there's no indication of criminality. If that's true, he should be elated that we're putting these things out.
It's not if that's true, it is true. Can you name any evidence?
I would like to see the evidence. What I'm saying is...
You think after 10 years of public life, you wouldn't know it already?
No, I don't. That's exactly the point.
Frustrated by what he saw as unfounded suspicion, Jennings exhaled and told Leonard,
"This is an IQ test. Don't fail it. Come on, man.
Scott,
10 years Donald Trump has been in public life.
That's embarrassing.
Come on."
Shortly after, another panelist chimed in, Josh Doss, a Democratic pollster. Doss claimed he heard Scott calling into question this black man's intelligence with the IQ test.
Just real quick, I just want to bring it back to something that just happened. I feel like I just heard Scott call into question this black man's intelligence with the IQ test.
That's what
I feel like I heard that. And so I just want to say something. This is what it sounded like.
For a split second, the air hung heavy. It was the kind of accusation that can derail a TV career. But Jennings did not panic or lash out. He shook his head, looking genuinely perplexed by the turn.
You want to make it racial? Go ahead, but it's ridiculous.
Well,
he said flatly. Keeping his voice measured, Jennings explained that he and Leonard were friends.
I mean, I think that...
By the way, we know each other and we're friends. I know this man. He's a smart guy, and we're having a debate.
There was zero malice in his intent, he insisted, and any racial interpretation was absurd. Doss tried to continue, but Jennings gently interrupted, maintaining that nothing he said was about race. Importantly, Jennings never raised his volume. He treated the moment as a misunderstanding to clarify, not a personal attack to counterpunch. Within minutes, the conversation shifted back to the substance. Doss pivoted to saying black men face a presumption of guilt, while Trump gets a presumption of innocence, which is so incorrect, by the way, but Jennings nodded along to those broader points, effectively diffusing the confrontation. By calmly and immediately addressing the subtext, Jennings prevented a narrative from forming against him. As the year closed out, one final controversy encapsulated how Jennings' demeanor set him apart. In December, President Trump added his own name to the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, renaming the landmark to include the Donald J. Trump alongside Kennedy's name. This sent the Newsnight panel into a collective meltdown. Several commentators lambasted it as gross or disrespectful, even mafia-style behavior, noting that JFK was a slain president memorialized by that center. Jennings, a conservative, was put on the spot to defend Trump's move, but instead of a full-throated defense, Jennings offered perspective.
I hate to break the news to everybody. The man's a two-term president. They're going to name some stuff after him. Probably more than one or two things, just like all two-term presidents.
He emphasized that, like any president, Trump would have roads, airports, or institutions named in his honor eventually. One panelist argued that if Joe Biden had done this, then the right would be up in arms.
If Biden would have done this with something else, let's say the Lincoln Memorial.
But Scott pointed out something very important.
I said two-term presidents.
Oh,
he's a one-term president, okay. and actually he was about a third of a term president. I'm not sure he was running the place.
This particular instance, a performing arts center, was, in Jennings' view, not worth the level of fury on display. That only inflamed the panel liberals even more. Another panelist pressed Jennings with hypotheticals.
President, if Barack Obama put his name on the Lincoln Memorial or anything else, there would be outrage from the right.
Jennings chuckled at the absurd image.
And so,
why would you put your name on a statue that's not of you? That doesn't make any sense.
Scott, it's a memorial.
It's a silly example.
When another panelist jumped in to complain about the situation, Jennings once again jumped in and said,
"What are we allowed to put it on? You have a list of things we can
Why
put it
not?
on."
He could have picked anything. He picks a memorial to a slain, assassinated president. I think it's gross. It's absolutely gross. Unnecessary, gross, and it's all we
Can you
don't
name
need
one
it.
thing you'd
we
be
don't
okay?
need it.
Like, tell me what is be okay if we put
All the
Donald
things you
Trump's
just
name on it.
I have a whole
An
big list of
airport,
things, but
the
you know
streets,
what?
the things.
Let's not distract from the issue. It's pretty disgusting.
The other yappers were not impressed. Voices raised as they argued Trump was desecrating a memorial to a murdered president. Jennings finally gave a small shake of the head, delivering 2 final lines that summed up his exhaustion with the outrage.
Being lectured by the Kennedys about stooping low and so on and so forth. Spare me. And we don't have to go down all the rabbit holes, but come on.
And then, leaning back with a faint smile, he summed up what America thinks about CNN.
How do you
And
guys
if I
most
were
of
the
the
Kennedy
outrage every day?
family-
It would exhaust me to be as outraged.
Well, I only
The outrage was to him performative and overblown. He refused to play along. In that split-screen moment, Jennings appeared almost bemused while the rest of the table seethed in anger. Throughout 2025, Scott Jennings proved something the left doesn't want to admit. You don't need to shout to win. You don't need outrage to make your point. Armed with facts, delivered with calm precision, one conservative voice consistently dismantled the left's narratives right on CNN's own airwaves. If you ask me, Scott is here to stay and has big things ahead for his career. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching.